A 6-year-old girl writes gratitude cards for her family and strings them up like decorations. She sings songs after Thanksgiving dinner, practicing for her performance in the Nutcracker the next day. Her cousin Paul watches from across the room, and then he walks to his car. When he comes back inside, he methodically shoots 4 relatives at point-blank range, including the little girl who just sang for him. He's been waiting 20 years for this, and tonight, no one could stop him. Thanks for clicking on this video, and please like, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos. Also, drop a comment sharing where you're watching from. Let's see which country has the most viewers. The Sitton family home in Jupiter, Florida glowed with much warmth on Thanksgiving Day, 2009. 16 relatives gathered around the dinner table, and laughter filled the rooms of the upscale gated community. 6-year-old Makayla Sitton had spent the afternoon making gratitude cards, and each one bore a simple message about how thankful she was for her family. She strung them on a line like a banner of innocence. Paul Michael Merhige sat among them. He was 35 years old, and his presence surprised many of the guests. The family knew him as a recluse who rarely attended gatherings, but tonight he smiled and ate turkey alongside everyone else. Nobody noticed the evil plans behind his smiles, because there was none to see. He laughed at jokes and joined the family around the piano after dinner. Makayla sang Christmas songs with the adults, and her voice carried through the house like bells. She was preparing for a performance of the Nutcracker the next day, so she treated this as her dress rehearsal. Paul watched her, and then he excused himself quietly. He said he needed to get something from his car. The family kept singing. They had no reason to suspect anything, because Paul had seemed calm all evening. 3 hours had passed since his arrival, and he'd given no warning signs. Jim Sitton, the host and a videographer for a local television station, had only met Paul twice before and hadn't seen him in over a decade. When Paul's father called earlier to say his son needed directions, Jim didn't think twice about it. But Paul wasn't getting something innocent from his blue 2007 Toyota Camry. He was retrieving a gun, and he had spent $2,000 on at least 4 firearms and ammunition in the weeks before this dinner. He'd also withdrawn $12,000 in cash, because he knew what came next. Paul returned to the house. The singing stopped when the first gunshot cracked through the air. He opened fire on his family at point-blank range, and the methodical nature of his attack showed he'd planned every detail. His twin sisters, 33-year-old Carla Merhige and 33-year-old Lisa Knight, were his first targets. Lisa was pregnant at the time. Patrick Knight, Lisa's husband, tried to protect his wife. Paul shot him in the stomach, and the injury was so severe that Patrick spent 3 months in a medically induced coma. Clifford Gabarra, Paul's 52-year-old cousin, was also shot, but survived with non-life-threatening wounds. Paul then shot his 79-year-old aunt, Raymond Joseph, in the shoulder. Her husband, Dr. Antoine Joseph, crouched beside her and tried desperately to stop the bleeding. Paul walked over to where they huddled on the floor, and he shot Raymond again in the chest. She died instantly. He turned the gun on his uncle and pulled the trigger twice, but the weapon didn't fire. Dr. Joseph survived only because of a mechanical failure. If you're feeling the tension of this story, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. This channel stands against the kind of calculated violence that destroyed this family. Your subscription means you're choosing to remember these victims of senseless killings and not let their stories fade into silence. The house erupted into chaos. Family members scrambled for exits and screamed for help. But Paul wasn't finished. He climbed the stairs to where Makayla slept in her bedroom. The little girl who had sung songs an hour earlier never woke up to understand what was happening. Jim Sitton ran to his daughter's window from outside, and he tried desperately to break through the glass. He didn't know it was hurricane glass, so he bounced off it like an insect against a windshield. "I heard her gasp," Jim later told the court. "Then I heard the shots, and I saw the flashes of light coming through the window." Makayla died in her bed. She would have turned 7 in just a few days. Witnesses reported that Paul said he had waited 20 years to do this. The statement revealed that this massacre wasn't impulsive rage. It was revenge that had fermented for 2 decades. Paul had been harboring hatred since he was 15 years old, and he'd chosen the most sacred family holiday to unleash it. He fled the scene around 10 o'clock that Thursday night. Police arrived to find 4 dead bodies, and a family shattered beyond repair. The youngest victim was airlifted to St. Mary's Medical Center, but doctors couldn't save her. Jupiter Police Chief Frank Kitzero had never seen anything like this in his career, so he called in the U.S. Marshals to assist with the manhunt. Paul's history painted a portrait of a man who should never have been anywhere near that dinner table. By 1994, when Paul was 20 years old, he began showing chronic violence and aggressive behavior toward his immediate and extended family. 2 years later, he was deemed legally disabled due to his mental health issues. Between 1994 and 2006, police were called to the Merhige family home at least 10 times because of Paul's extremely violent acts and expressed threats of violence. Paul attempted suicide in 1999 by shooting himself in the chest. The attempt failed, and he survived. He was committed to psychiatric hospitals 3 times under Florida's Baker Act, and during those stays, he admitted to doctors that he fantasized about killing his family members. He underwent electroshock therapy and was placed on heavy doses of antipsychotics and anti-anxiety medications. His twin sisters were terrified of him. They obtained restraining orders against Paul after he threatened to cut their throats with a knife, though they dropped the orders weeks later. He once went to police claiming Carla was trying to kill him, but officers discovered the accusations were false. His family knew he was dangerous, yet they kept pulling him back into their circle. Dr. Antoine Joseph, who hosted the family's 2008 Thanksgiving dinner, had even threatened to cancel the event if Paul attended. The family understood the risk, yet somehow Paul received an invitation to the 2009 gathering. Before leaving for the dinner, Paul's mother, Carol Merhige, told a witness that she hoped her son doesn't come and kill us all tonight. Drop a like on this video if you believe families should be more careful about any of its members that starts to seem like a threat. Every like is a voice saying, we won't normalize ignoring red flags until it's too late. Paul's parents had moved him out of their Kendall home earlier in 2009 and set him up in a condominium. The housekeeper who monitored him reported back to Michael and Carol Merhige that their son had stopped taking his medications and refused mental health treatment. He became increasingly reclusive, and he wouldn't allow anyone except the housekeeper into his apartment. Despite knowing all of this, his parents continued providing him with money, which he saved up and used to buy guns. Paul disappeared after the massacre, and a $25,000 reward was offered for information leading to his arrest. He had prepared for this moment by shaving his head and disguising his Camry with a car cover and switched license plates. He checked into the Edgewater Lodge in Long Key, Florida, under the name John Baca. The motel sat 3 hours away from Jupiter, and Paul spent his days hiding in his second-floor room. The manhunt stretched into weeks. Investigators searched bodies of water near the Sitton home and alerted authorities in Michigan because a doctor there had treated Paul 3 months before the murders. Tips flooded in from across the country, but none led to his capture. Paul sat in his motel room with his laptop, likely following the news coverage of his crimes. He lived off the cash he'd withdrawn before Thanksgiving, and he contemplated suicide. Then came January 2nd, 2010. Paul Pfaff was watching a football game on Fox when a commercial for America's Most Wanted flashed across his big-screen television. A photo of Paul Merhige appeared, and Paul Pfaff recognized him instantly as the man staying at the Edgewater Lodge. His wife, Melinda, verified the photo on the show's website, and then she called police. "How sure are you on a scale of 1 to 10? The dispatcher asked. Melinda didn't hesitate. "A 10. You need to get here now." U.S. Marshals and local police officers surrounded the motel within hours. They burst into Paul's second-floor room and found him sitting at his computer. He didn't resist arrest. The 5-week manhunt ended quietly, and Paul was transported to Palm Beach County Jail. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts on how the justice system should handle cases where mental illness and premeditation collide. Your voice matters in conversations about preventing future tragedies. He was charged with 4 counts of premeditated murder and 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder. The trial was scheduled for January 2011, and his public defenders filed documents indicating they would pursue an insanity defense. The case divided the victims' families immediately. Patrick Knight, who lost his pregnant wife and unborn child, wanted the case resolved quickly. He approved of a plea deal because he couldn't endure 20 years of appeals, and he feared a jury might find Paul not guilty by reason of insanity. But Jim Sitton wanted Paul to face the death penalty. He begged the judge to postpone the hearing so he could prepare a proper response with his attorney, because the state had only informed them of the plea deal 2 days earlier. "We've been waiting patiently for almost 2 years for this case to come to trial," Jim said in court. "Justice for Makayla is not life, it is death." The families sat in the packed West Palm Beach courtroom on October 27, 2011. State Attorney Michael Merhige had decided to accept Paul's guilty plea after careful evaluation. He noted the disparate opinions among the families and concluded that 7 consecutive life sentences would adequately punish Paul without the risk of appeals or favorable rulings. Palm Beach County Circuit Judge Joseph Marks sentenced Paul to 7 life terms without parole. Paul agreed to waive all rights of appeal as part of the deal. "You will never see the light of day," Judge Marks told him. Paul Merhige was 37 years old, and he would die in prison. The legal battles didn't end with Paul's sentencing. In 2011, Jim and Muriel Sitton sued Paul's parents, claiming they could have prevented the murders. Patrick Knight filed a similar lawsuit. Both argued that Michael and Carol Merhige knew their son was dangerous, knew he owned guns, knew he'd stopped taking medications, and still invited him to a family gathering without warning anyone. The Merhiges fought back. They filed a countersuit blaming the Sittons and Dr. Joseph for allowing Paul into the house. Their attorney argued that if the hosts were concerned about Paul, they should have stopped him at the door. Judge Minu Sasser dismissed both lawsuits, and in 2014, Florida's 4th District Court of Appeal ruled that Merhige's parents could not be held liable for the massacre. Judge Robert Gross wrote in the opinion that families should be encouraged to include troubled relatives without fear of civil liability. The court noted that holding parents responsible for their adult children's actions would discourage families from providing support to mentally ill relatives. The system chose to protect family bonds over accountability. Hit that share button if you think this story needs to reach more people. Sharing this video means you're standing against a system that sometimes values legal technicalities over the safety of innocent children like Makayla. The Sittons tried to move forward despite their grief. During Paul's trial, they announced that Muriel was pregnant at age 50 with their second daughter. "We're having a girl, but it's very bittersweet," Muriel said. "There will always be someone missing." The family found comfort in knowing Paul would never walk free, but the hole Makayla left could never be filled. Paul Merhige remains in prison today, serving 7 consecutive life sentences. He will never see parole, and he will die behind bars. The little girl who made gratitude cards and sang Christmas songs is remembered by her family every Thanksgiving, and her father still keeps the novel she was writing about a squirrel beside her bed. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about family loyalty, mental illness, and the warning signs we choose to ignore. Paul showed violence for 15 years before he killed anyone, yet his family kept inviting him back. The system failed to protect 4 innocent people because it couldn't balance mental health intervention with public safety. Raymond Joseph was 79 years old when she died. Carla Merhige was 33. Lisa Knight was 33 and pregnant. Makayla Sitton was 6 years old and had her whole life ahead of her. They gathered to give thanks for family, and family destroyed them. The turkey had barely been cleared from the table when Paul turned their celebration into a massacre, and the scars on Jupiter's gated community will never fully heal.
I want to thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you're going to love what's coming next. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for instant updates on our latest videos. See you in the next one.